How beautiful, how beautiful was it to have baseball back on our screens once again? Welcome, folks. Welcome once again to the Pinch Talk podcast. This is episode 11, if I'm not mistaken. And man, it was just such an amazing sight just to hear the sounds of everything going on. I watched Joe Musgrove wipe the fuck, wipe out, my bad, the Indians lineup. And the man who's here with me, as always, I'm pretty sure he also witnessed that, didn't you?
Yeah, they had Joe Musgrove looking like Bob Gibson. And what made it worse was the Pirates announcers were awful.
Oh yeah. Oh
They
yo
were
yo yo. Go on.
they were horrible.
Trash.
They were wrong about everything. I said Zach Plesac was a total overall pick when he was like a 11th rounder coming out of a Ball State in Indiana. It was just an awful draft. I mean, awful announcing.
Yeah.
It was really bad. They made. Oh my goodness! I feel like we could have done that better than they did.
100%.
Honestly,
Because the worst thing you could do as a baseball announcer, people, is to be overly nervous and kind of tripping over your words and shit. That's the worst thing you can do as a baseball announcer, because it does not match with the tempo and the emotion of what we're seeing, right? So
no, it doesn't.
so anyways,
They had the guy at home who was an ex-player or whatever. Like he carried that whole broadcast.
yeah, I mean, I turned the shit off in a minute. Good, because I am experienced with terrible broadcasting. Anyway, so this is episode 11, like I've said, and yeah, we're inching closer and closer to opening day. Man, it's just such an exciting time right now. So we're gonna kick things off by giving y'all a little reminder of when actually opening day is. Let me go ahead and click this shit. Opening day is July 23rd, so set that date. Really do. And the game you really need to watch for is Yankees and the Nats. That's 7 p.m. Eastern time, July 23rd. And you want to explain to the people the pitching matchup that we're going to see?
Yeah, you got Garrett Cole versus Max Scherzer.
Mm.
Let me repeat that again. Garrett Cole versus Max Scherzer. That's I want to inject it in my veins right now. That's a great pitching matchup. I mean, not just that, the lineups each team has are great too. They have a lot of interesting and big names. And to see Garrett Cole go against the Washington Nationals lineup when you have Juan Soto, Victor Robles, and all those other guys, and then you have Max Scherzer going against Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, and Gary Sanchez, and Gleyber Torres, and the rest of those guys. It's going to be really interesting.
Yep, it's a star-studded affair, folks. So, yeah, set that date. We would talk also about, of course, I mean, if you want to watch the game that follows that one, sure do, because it's baseball and it's cool. But I mean, it's Giants and Dodgers. Who the fuck thought of that? Let me just ask that question. Who the fuck thought of putting the Giants on opening day?
I don't know.
Who was the bright fucking mind that thought of that? It was which team needs national exposure right now?
The Giants.
This team entering a fucking clean ass rebuild. What?
Full blown down to the studs, and they don't even have Buster Posey. He's opting out. So
yeah, the only guy worth watching is Joey Bart, and I don't even know if he's going to be on the opening day roster. So so that's opening day, July 23rd. Set them dates. You really do want to watch the Yankees and Nats. It's a beautiful pitching matchup. Then after that, all the rest of the teams, they start the season on July 24th. Man, it's weird. Because we've done divisional previews, of course. We talked about the draft and all that, but we haven't actually done actual season predictions. We haven't actually talked about how we think the season might unfold in more specific terms. So one way to do that, I think I think we can talk about kind of like our postseason predictions in a way, because we kind of did mention like who we thought was going to win the division on the divisional previews, but things have kind of changed in some ways since then. So maybe something has changed. You got some kind of like predictions for like divisional champs, wild card, and then how the shit plays out.
Okay. For the AL East and the NL East, and for the first starting with the AL East, I think the Rays are gonna win the division, and the Yankees are gonna be closer, fight for a wild card spot, probably, most likely. I just think the Rays are built for a crazy season like this. They have bullpen arms on trees. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a hydra kind of.
Yeah.
And then they have a great rotation, and their lineup is great also. Kevin Cash and their front office, and one of those creative front offices in baseball, and they make trades, and they know how to, and who knows, and they just have a really great roster. I feel like if anybody's gonna beat the Yankees, it's them. Honestly.
I think that's a fair point. They have like, there's no obvious hole in the team that could cost them dearly in 60 games is basically what we're saying, right? Like there's no obvious player that can drag them down, right? So
right.
I think it's fair to say that the Rays might win the division. I think that I don't disagree with you with your logic, because like I actually agree with it. I do think they're built for it, but I mean I'm still picking the Yankees because they're the Yankees. I'm gonna be boring with this pick. With this one, I am. I am gonna pick the Yankees. I do think the Rays when we get into the wild cards, I will mention them. But for the AL East, I got the Yankees. For the NL East, I am going to be boring, but I don't think this one is being boring. I just think this one's being logical. I got the Braves. I mean, we both do, I'm sure. There's no other team in this division that can challenge them, really, right?
Yeah, the Braves, if they can stay healthy, considering they're in Georgia, and also with the Rays being healthy and not and avoiding COVID, considering they're in Florida, that's going to be a big deal also.
Yeah.
But I think it's the Braves, and nobody else is close. Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies and the rest of the guys, and Freddie Freeman is healthy again, and the rest of the guys on that squad in a 60-game season is just too much talent to surmount unless their bullpen is awful again. And so is the rotation, and they don't bring up the young guys, or the young guys come up and they don't play well. But
yeah,
there's one but here. The Braves are a young team. You just really don't know what could happen, honestly, but I expect them to win the division and to win it by a pretty decent amount. I really don't expect it to be that competitive, honestly.
I mean, I would, but then I remember that their main competition might honestly be the Mets, and they're the Mets. So,
right.
Yeah. I am gonna agree with you. So moving on, to the Central. Now this, we talked about the MLB Central, quote unquote. This is gonna be just a shit show. Who do you got? Well, let's start with the NL Central. Who do you got for the Central? Because this one is just all over the place.
The Reds.
The Reds. Oh, that's interesting. I actually got the Cubs. I'm maintaining what I said back in the divisional preview. I said that I'd pick them because they're the quote unquote safe pick, because in a season like this, I don't want to go too much out there right now. I will in some other picks, though. I guarantee that. Basically, my logic is they have elite position player talent. I know their pitching staff is weak, but I think that is fairly, it's not far-fetched to expect like 2 or 3 of their elite guys to just get hot and just win 35 games. So, but I do think the Reds are a good pick, though, in essence.
Yeah, I have to go with the Reds because of the rotation. They have the best rotation, and
it's fair. It's fair.
And the MLB Central, honestly, they have probably a top 3 rotation in baseball. Also, looking at their lineup, when you add the DH there, they have so many good hitters in our lineup. You can DH Joey Votto and give him off days, maybe, or they can cycle guys around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a stacked lineup from top to bottom. And if you want to lead off for the AL Central, go ahead.
The AL Central, I'm gonna go with the Twins. I'm gonna play it safe. Again, I don't know. Like, their pitching staff is so mid. It's just the definition of mediocre. Their pitching staff, but the lineup is just so brutal that even if half the lineup goes cold, the other half goes hot, and they are still ferocious. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm picking the Twins just on offensive firepower, just purely based on that. And I think you might be surprised with where the Indians are when we do the wild card prediction. So you got the Twins as well in the Central, or are you going with your team?
I do have the Twins as well. It depends on how their pitching comes out the gate. Maybe, to me, honestly, I'm gonna give them some slack. But honestly, it's going to be tight either way with the Indians and Twins. I think that people are down the Indians, but we'll see what happens when we do the wild card spots also.
Yeah, because that's kind of that plays a big role in kind of completing the whole picture. So, moving on to the American League. I mean, I don't even think I say the American League West because the NL West, it doesn't make sense to even talk about it, really. Just the Dodgers and that's it, right? I mean, there's nothing else to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like, it's just a waste of time. So, the American League West. Now, who do you got for this one? Because I might surprise you on this one.
I think the Athletics are going to win.
I agree. I thought you was going to pick the Astros.
I think the Athletics are going to win. They're like the Rays of the West, pretty much.
Yeah, I think they're less proven, but like, it sounds funny to say that, but
if Luzardo and Puck, they're two young lefties, get the green light, it's going to be spooky.
Yeah, like Tampa has a more like the pitching staff is something that from the Rays is something that we both can see. Like, we've seen it be dominant before. We got to see the A's, their starting rotation, be dominant yet. We haven't seen it yet, but I do believe in it, which is obviously why I'm picking them. I think it's going to be very close with the Astros, though.
Yeah, it's going to be 1 or 2 games for sure. But if Sean Manasse is healthy and does what he can do, if Frankie Montas does what he can do,
yeah.
If AJ Puck and Jesus Luzardo come out and just do what we think they can do, or does something, just contribute, then they should be fine. They have a great bullpen. If Marcus Semien and Matt Chapman and Matt Olson can pretty much carry our lineup, and Chris Davis also, then they should be fine.
Yeah, he needs to bounce back. But yeah, because that starting rotation is a question mark. And the thing is, this team has won 97 games the past 2 years without, that dominant rotation. So yeah, it's kind of like you said, if Luzardo and Puck, if they work out, this is going to be spooky, and it's going to be spooky for a while. So onto the wild cards now. Now this is a spot where there's might be some fuckery going on. I'd say let's go for the AL wild cards first, because it's, there's less teams to pick from in general. My 2 picks are the Rays, because I'm not picking them to win the East, and then the Astros as the second wild card. I'm not picking the Indians. I think they'll be very close to the Twins, but I think they won't have as good a record as the Astros will.
Okay, that's fair. My wild card picks are the Yankees and the Indians, but I also see a lot of scenarios where there might be some tiebreakers.
That's true.
For both wild card spots, possibly, in both leagues, or even for maybe the division crown, you might see some tiebreakers, maybe, just because the divisions are so. Just because it's just going to be so chaotic this year, especially the last 2 weeks of baseball.
Yeah. Which might make it,
you might see tiebreakers in every division, or for all 4 wild card spots in both leagues.
Yeah, what happened in 2018, where you saw tiebreakers for the Central NL Central and NL West on the same day, you might see that.
Yeah, you really might see something like that.
Yeah. The other team I was considering was obviously the Indians. Like I said, I think it's gonna it's gonna be very close, but like all these teams are gonna be separated by like 2-3 games max. So it's kind of like just tossing some shit out, and we're probably gonna be wrong. People like just face it, we're gonna be wrong about a lot of shit because it's only 60 games, and maybe the Astros finish like below 500 because some crazy shit happened, and maybe the fucking White Sox win 40 games or something like that. Like it can all happen. This is bizarro world baseball, so everything can happen. So the AL, we did the whole thing. Now the NL wildcard, and now this is just out there. What do you have for the NL wildcard?
I have the Brewers and the Cubs.
Okay, two different teams than what I have. I have the Reds and I have the Mets. The Brewers. Now that one surprised me.
The Mets surprised me, honestly, just because it's the Mets.
I mean, yeah.
I just
like if they weren't the Mets, I would have probably picked them to kind of like actually compete for the division or finish with the first wild card. But because they're the Mets, I'm gonna knock them down a few steps and shit. But I mean, I just feel like the Mets have the lineup like I was trying to like put together their lineup like how I would put it together, and as I was going through it, I'm like, God damn, like like there's a lot of like 120 and higher OPS plus guys on this fucking list. I'm like, like, and I expect the bullpen to bounce back to some extent. So it's like the talent is there. Like it's only because it's the fucking Mets. So I mean, I don't know. The Reds, we've kind of talked about them. Like, I do believe they're going to be a great team. I don't know how the offense will match. I think a lot depends on what Joey Votto does at the top of the lineup if he can get on base. Because after him, most of their good hitters are not exactly OBP guys. Castellanos, Moose, Suarez, etc. So I think it depends on him, but. You think that's a fair point? Because I don't know, man. Like, I don't know about the Reds. Like, I see, like, the talent is there, but I haven't seen it be a cohesive unit yet, and I don't know how much I can trust it. Basically,
that's fair. For me, I picked the Brewers and the Cubs because the Brewers, they have the bullpen strength and they'll figure some things out. And I think if Yelich just torches the NL Central for 60 games, and it's a supporting cast does what they can do, then it should be fine. I like the additions they made with Brock Holt and a couple other guys they added. They're getting Corey Noble back from Tommy John surgery, and he was one of the best relievers in baseball. So having him along with Josh Hader on the back end will be pretty good. Brendan Woodruff can last 60 games. And they have some other interesting guys in the rotation also. I have the Cubs going just because they have the experience and they have the position player core talent to cover up some of the flaws with the pitching staff. But if Yu Darvish and John Lester can be competent, then there's faith to be had there. And there's a possibility that they could bring up Braylon Marquez to be their closer or maybe an eighth inninger setup guy. He's a young lefty that sits 97 and 99 with a wipeout slider. You don't see that often.
Yeah. There's a lot of teams in the NL that could get into the playoffs, especially this year. I feel like it's just going to be Dodgers and then everyone else in the NL. I think the AL is going to be much more of a heavyweight fight between a lot of people. But yeah, like all these postseason predictions, they're our gut feeling. But like I said before, we could very easily be wrong on like half these shits. So don't take them too seriously. Other predictions we could do, like think that's always fun to do. People always like to hear that, because people always like, individual accomplishments and shit. Award predictions. The MVP. Kind of like, so we don't go on for like fucking half an hour on these shits. Like, I feel like it would be cool to keep, the MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, Manager, and then the Gold Glove, discussion, all that. Also, a disclaimer for people. Not as much as they used to be, but these awards are still to some extent popularity contests. Let's make that clear. Particularly the Gold Gloves. So, just basically take all these with a grain of salt. So why not start with the MVP? Of course, it's the one award. Now, who do you got first of all? NL and AL for the MVP conversation.
For MVP in the National League, I have Ronald Acuna Jr. And in the AL, I have George Springer.
Okay, so we got two pretty different picks. In the NL, I got Christian Yelich. I think it's very self-explanatory. He probably should have won MVP last year, honestly. And in the American League, I got your man. I got Jose Ramirez. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why. I just had this feel like I can just see him just going crazy, like he did in the second half last year, like hitting like fucking 360 or some shit, and just like impressing everyone because he's such a complete player. I can see him just putting up insane numbers for like 60 games. So I don't know, like I could have been boring and just given it to Trout because I mean he's the best player in baseball. But I said, you know what, let's give it to Jose Ramirez and let's just see what he does because I got mad faith.
Honestly, I don't think people realize this, but in 2018, at in like August or something, Jose Ramirez and Mookie Betts were the only players in the history of baseball to like be on pace with Mike Trout for WAR at that certain point or at the All-Star break also.
Yeah, like he had an insane season in 2018.
Jose Ramirez was amongst the leaders in home runs, on base percentage, slugging percentage, and stolen bases in the first half of 2018.
Yeah,
that's just. I mean, his skill set is so unique because he's a high contact guy, high on base percentage. He can easily be still 40 bases in a full season if he wanted to. He has 30 home run power. And he only strikes out at like a 7 and 10% clip,
which is very rare for today's game. So,
yeah, it's insane. You don't see that. He combines the qualities of what old school guys want and what new school baseball is.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to put it that way.
Exactly.
Along with the positional versatility.
Yeah, because he can play third, he can play second. I think that will also play to his strengths, this year and moving forward. So that's the MVP. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of the obvious names, like they would have mentioned, Bregman, Bellinger, things like that. The thing about the 60 game season is that it makes it a lot easier for a random player, quote unquote, to win MVP if they just have a crazy stretch. So it's gonna be fun. We might have some a very unexpected MVP this season. The Cy Young Award, then real prestigious shit. I'm gonna go with NL and AL. I'm gonna go with Walker Buehler for the National League, and the obvious Garrett Cole for the American League. It hurt me to say Walker Buehler for the National League Cy Young Award. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be biased and pick Germán Marquez. But I'm like, I'm just going to be, more realistic. Who you got?
For Cy Young Award in the National League, I have Jacob deGrom getting his third Cy Young Award in a row just because I feel like what he's kind of figured out and taken to the next level is just one of those all-time great pitching runs that we've seen with Pedro and Greg Maddux and guys like that.
Yeah.
He's just a special guy, and then he's so power oriented. Like he has a low 90s changeup, low 90s slider, He sits mid to high 90s with his fastball, but his command is just absurd.
Yeah, he's that perfect mix of
And
overpowering
yeah,
fastball, insane stuff, and perfect command. Like, you just do not see that.
no, you don't. And the crazy thing about it is he's a converted shortstop.
He is, and he wasn't a high draft pick at all, right?
No, he wasn't. He was like a 12th overall, 13th overall. Him and Corey Kluber went to the same college actually, so which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But he was a shortstop in college, which kind of explains his athleticism and his ability to his command and control and things like that with his mechanics. Yeah. But my AL pick for the Cy Young Award is Tyler Glasnow, starting pitcher for the Rays.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
He has some injury concern, but his stuff is hellacious, like
triple digits.
And then his triple digits easily. And then with the 60-game season, they're gonna turn him loose. I don't think there's any concerns about his health. Not to mention, his stuff is disgusting and his delivery is scary. Like, it looks like he's gonna hit you with the ball every time he throws.
Yeah.
And he's like 6'8", so just all arms and legs just flailing around.
Yeah. Man, Tampa Bay got scary pitching staff. And anyway, so on to the Rookie of the Year. Let's start with the American League first. And my pick, and maybe I don't know. I can't remember yours. He just hit 3 home runs in a inter-squad game just yesterday. Luis Robert from the White Sox. I mean, is there anything else to say about him, fam? Really?
No, there isn't. So when he signed, or when he was going to sign, there was a scout for the MLB team that said he's the best player in the world right now. And this is when he was 17. He played professional baseball in Cuba from the age of 14 till when he defected from the age of 18, I think, or 19.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
14.
That's insane, because Cuba is one of the best baseball leagues in the world outside the United States.
Yeah.
By far. Like, they're probably top five for sure. Top 3, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you want to give your NL pick?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, did you say your NL pick?
Okay, no, I didn't say. My NL pick, I didn't want to say Gavin Lux because I already said Walker Buehler for the Cy Young Award, and I don't want to give the Dodgers too much credit, but I actually do believe in this cat. I picked Dylan Carlson from the Cardinals because mainly because the Cardinals have really no one else to play. Like, their lineup is so terrible that they're gonna have to give him starts, and I think he's got the tools to put up a real great season. So yeah, that's my pick.
That's fair. That's very fair. I didn't even think he was gonna get called up this year, but you might be right. My pick for the AL Rookie of the Year award is gonna be a little surprising. It's gonna be very biased, but I'm going with James Karinchak, relief pitcher for the Cleveland Indians. And my reason behind that is this guy put up a 22K per 9 last year in the minor leagues, and in the majors last year he struck out like 5 hitters in 3 innings he pitched. And when you look at the stuff, it's 4-seam fastball that sits 97, it can touch 100, and he has probably the best curveball and one of the best curveballs in baseball.
Yeah. And
he has his overhand delivery that just makes it look like they're the same pitch coming out of his hand, so it times perfectly. And one trend that James Karinchak personifies with baseball right now for the more progressive teams is high 4-seam fastball in the upper third of strike zone and a high spin curveball that's just filthy.
Yeah.
Or a high spin breaking ball in general. And with him, there's a lot of variance in performance because he has control issues when you throw like he does, and you have an overhand delivery. But him at his ceiling, he will easily, if he performs like he can perform, he will easily be the best relief pitcher on the Indians or Cleveland Baseball Club. I should start calling him that. And one of the best. And one of the best relievers in all of baseball. That's his ceiling. Like, he has That's it. He's like Craig Kimbrell with an overhand delivery, pretty much.
Yeah. So basically, to sum it up, folks, Pat's explanation as to why he picked James Karinchak for the Rookie of the Year in the American League. Watch him pitch. That's really all you need to know. Watch him pitch, and you will see, like, it's just fucking ridiculous the stuff that he has. Did you say your NL pick?
No, my NL pick. I played it safe. I went Gavin Lux.
It's fair.
Just because I feel like he's one of the only rookies in the NL. I think he's going to get enough playing time to really do his thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, he's gonna be hitting 7th or 8th in our lineup, and he's a really talented hitter too. So
yeah, because the Dodgers are just lacking offensive firepower. Manager of the Year. I also played it safe here. I went Dave Roberts for the National League. I did go for Kevin Cash in the American League because I believe the Rays are going to push the Yankees to the brink in the divisional race. So that's why I went with that.
For me, I was gonna go Dave Roberts and Kevin Cash, but I switched it up again just to challenge myself a little bit. I went Brian Snitker, manager of the Braves or the Atlanta Baseball Club, for the NL, just because I think they might be able to push the Dodgers for most wins in the MLB this year. I think they can do it. I think they could really do that. They could be able to do that. And if they dominate the AL East, especially the Rays and the Yankees, like they have the potential to, then that would be very interesting also. My pick for the AL Manager of the Year is Terry Francona. And I think Tito was built for a season like this just because he's able to get his guys to play every day. He knows how to pick guys up and push buttons the right way. And everybody in the Indians clubhouse completely adores him and loves him. No, but so, and honestly, he knows how to play around with the bullpen and get those guys together. He's gonna have 4 switch hitters at the top of his lineup, and he's gonna have 2 perennial all-stars in there. He's gonna have one of the best rotations in baseball still, and he's gonna have one of the best front offices in baseball, making trades and doing call-ups and seeing who's ready to play and things like that also. That's my reasoning.
Yeah, I think it's fair. You want to do like a reliever of the year and that whole thing. I do think that, side note, like aside from awards, I mentioned before how I think the Mets bullpen, I think is going to rebound because there's a lot of talent. I think Edwin Diaz is going to have a crazy season this year.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Relievers next, right? Reliever of the year.
If you want to do it, then we can. If you don't want to do it, we can just move on to the Gold Gloves. Like, don't mind.
No, I'm fine with doing a reliever of the year and doing Hank Aaron award too.
All right, so for those two, I got for the reliever of the year, I got Edwin Diaz for the National League. Because of what I said. He had an awful season last year. It was just bad to watch.
He did.
It was just bad. And then for the American League, I played it safe. I went Liam Hendricks from the A's. I mean, he's one of the 3 best relievers in baseball, so it's a very safe pick. Yeah.
Well, I picked 2 relievers of the year, and the NL is Josh Hader. I think he's just really dominant, and in a short season, the room for error is smaller, but at the same time, they're just going to have less time to kind of figure him out, and they're just probably going to be behind the pitchers at the beginning of the season too.
Yeah.
That just makes it all the worse. Plus, I think they're going to take some of the load off of him this year just because of how small the season is, so he won't have time to kind of get stretched out and do 2 innings a game like he usually would.
Yeah, man.
Or 2 innings in appearance.
They give him the Thibodeau D Rose treatment, like you put it perfectly that one time. I was like,
yeah, for real. His arm is gonna. His elbow's gonna be Vaseline when he's finished playing baseball for sure.
Yeah.
My pick in the American League is Nick Anderson of the Rays.
Okay.
He was the best reliever in baseball the second half of the year last year. in my opinion. And honestly, I think he's gonna destroy everybody just because his stuff is just so filthy and it's just really crazy. And the Rays are known for making guys play up, and they know how to make pitchers better too. So there's just a bigger reason for me to pick him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, picking a Rays reliever for reliever of the year, it's a pretty safe bet. I mean,
it is.
If the voters are smart, it's a pretty safe bet. So, for the Hank Aaron Awards, I said Yelich and Trout. You got like some random pick?
I got Yelich and Trout also. And for those who don't know, for you guys who don't know, the Hank Aaron Award is given to the best offensive player in each league. And sometimes, well, most of the time, the Hank Aaron Award usually goes to the MVP just because he's usually the best offensive player also.
Yeah.
Unless like a second place guy just goes crazy.
Yeah.
But that's usually how it goes.
So yeah, that was kind of a lineup for like individual awards. Then we get into the whole Gold Glove shit. Now the Gold Gloves have historically been a sham. I mean, everyone knows it. There's a certain shortstop for the Yankees that won 5 fucking Gold Gloves, despite having the range of a traffic cone. So yeah, the Gold Gloves are kind of a popularity contest, and there's a lot of guys who will win them, even if they're not defensively playing at a super high level because of their name. So I don't think it's worth like spending like a whole bunch of time on these, but they are fun nonetheless. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give my NL picks, and then you can go ahead and do yours if you don't mind. So I got.
That's perfect.
For the catcher Gold Glove, I got JT Realmuto. He won it last year, if I'm not mistaken, and he's the best catcher in baseball. So, yeah, for him. For the first baseman, I got Paul Goldschmidt, mainly because I think he's going to have a stronger season offensively than he did last year. And believe it or not, folks, despite the Gold Glove being a defensive-minded award that's supposed to reward good fielders, historically, if you had a good offensive season, you also have a good shot of winning a defensive award at your position. Go figure. So I think Paul Goldschmidt is going to get it. Also, he's also a good defensive first baseman. So second, I got Ozzy Albies. At third, I got the easiest pick, Nolan Arenado, because until Ke'Bryan Hayes comes up for the Pirates, no one else is going to challenge him in the NL. At shortstop, I got Javi Baez. I almost picked Trevor Story, but Javi is a bit better than him defensively, just a bit better. But Story is a better overall shortstop, though, so let me just get that out there. For left field, this one was funny as shit because I actually went on Fangraphs just to see, and there have been only 8 left fielders over the past 2 years with enough innings in left field to actually qualify as full-time left fielders. So I picked Juan Soto because he's a huge star, and they're going to give it to him probably. Center field, I got Victor Robles. He should have won it last year. And right field, I got Mookie Betts because, of course, the Dodgers need more gold. Who do you got?
In the NL, not surprisingly, ours are really similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Gold Gloves.
Yeah, I got JT Realmuto for catcher. He's the best defensive catcher in baseball, if not top 3. When you look at his ability to frame, block pitches, and the fact that he can throw out runners at a third rate because he has a cannon for an arm and he has quick pop times because he's just so athletic. You don't see JT Realmuto is a once-in-a-generation catcher from an athletic standpoint.
Yeah, 100%.
You just don't see guys who can move like him.
Yeah.
At first base, I got Goldie. I feel like he's one of the best defensive first basemen in baseball.
Yeah.
And I expect him to bounce back, especially on a 60-game season. He's gonna have I think he should be good, and especially after your first season in St. Louis could be a little pressure-inducing, also, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think having the rest of that high-level defense around him is going to make him play up a little bit, also.
Yeah.
Or second base, I have Ozzy Albies. He's easily the best second baseman in baseball defensively. His range and things like that is amazing. And he could play shortstop for a lot of teams.
Yeah. He had some okay arm, but that's the only thing. Like range-wise, he definitely could. Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah. Third base, Arenado, obviously.
All right. Okay, I thought he was gonna say some off the wall shit to piss me off.
No. I'm not disrespectful. It's no Arenado. Shortstop, I have Nick Ahmed, the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, he's really
good. He already has one. He's really underrated defensively. In general, honestly, he's a very valuable shortstop. Left field, I have Tommy Pham.
Okay. Okay.
I think I want to do something different because I feel like Juan Soto would be too easy, and there's not a lot of guys accumulating innings in left field in the National League, anyways.
Yeah.
Center field, I have Victor Robles. He's a once in a generation defender, and I think he's just going to get better. Honestly, he's a superstar in my opinion, and he's very underrated.
I think he's going to be, not yet to me, but he's going to be. Yeah,
I agree. And then right field, I have Mookie Betts because the rich get richer in baseball, just like in life.
Yep. Man, we were 7 for 8. We only deferred in the shortstops.
And left field.
Oh yeah, and left field. So we were 6 for 8. So 75% of the time we agreed. That kind of tells you, people, and we did not consult with each other, by the way. Like, we didn't say who we were picking. This just kind of tells you what the Gold Glove Award actually is. So in the American League, I got at catcher, I got Sean Murphy of the Oakland A's because I think he's got a fucking cannon of an arm, and I think if the A's perform well, and he's then he's going to be a big part of it, and he might get some recognition.
That's a very different pick.
Yeah, and
that's interesting.
It's mostly because I believe in his arm, and because I believe in the A's that they're going to be good, and he's going to get some national recognition. Hopefully, they're going to get some nationally televised games. Hopefully, goddamn MLB. Don't put the fucking Phillies in the. I don't fucking know. Don't give me the Yankees and the Red Sox 3 times in 3 weeks, man. Fuck out of here. At first base, I got Matt Olson. He won it last year. He's the best defensive first baseman in baseball to me. Hey, he's just that. Second base, I got my man DJ LeMahieu. I love this dude. Like, he can play third. He can play he can play first. He could probably play somewhat serviceable shortstop, even if you really wanted him to. But he's a Gold Glove second baseman. He's won a couple before. Third base, another obvious pick, Matt Chapman. Like, best defensive third baseman in baseball. Yes, even better than Nolan Arenado. And I'm a Rockies fan, so take that into account. He's just as good, if not better. Shortstop, I got your man. I got Francisco Lindor, best defensive shortstop. Well, actually, no. Let me scrap that. I'm gonna pick Andrelton Simmons. I actually kind of forgot about him. I'm gonna pick Andrelton Simmons. I think he was hurt last year. I think he's gonna bounce back and be the monster that he always is. Left field, Andrew Benintendi, because I didn't really have anyone else to pick aside from him. Center field, I picked Luis Robert. I picked him to win Rookie of the Year and a Gold Glove because I think he's going to be a monster. And right field, I pick Aaron Judge if he stays healthy. So that's my list. Pretty cookie cutter aside from Sean Murphy at catcher, honestly.
For my go picks for the American League, I have Roberto Perez at catcher.
Yeah. Okay.
After what he did last year, he's just a complete catcher defensively. He blocks. He's a great game caller. His pitchers love him, and he has one of the best pitching staffs to play with in the American League and all of baseball in general.
Yep.
he was like the second or third catcher, and since like the early 1900s to catch over 100 games without a pass ball, something like that. And mind you, he was playing last year with bone spurs in his ankle. He has a cannon for an arm. People don't run on him. He's always been a great framer also. And even when he was only a part-time catcher, he was still putting up some of the best defensive metrics in baseball for catchers in general.
Mm-hmm.
First base pick is Matt Olson. He's the best first baseman in baseball defensively. No one else is as good. He's just dynamic. Well, Cody Bellinger is close too, but
yeah, if you consider him a first baseman, then yeah.
Honestly, Cody Bellinger's proven he's athletic enough to play in the outfield full time. But if he was a first baseman, he would be a plus first baseman defensively.
Yeah, he's gonna play in center field this year, I think, right?
Yeah, he should play center, and Mookie's gonna play right. My pick for second base Gold Glove in the American League is D. Gordon.
Okay.
I think it was different. I wanted to go DJ LeMahieu, or was gonna go Jose Altuve, but Altuve is overrated defensively, and the knee injuries are gonna slow him down too.
Yeah, he's already slowing down.
So I think I'm gonna go D. Gordon just because he's won one before, and it was kind of a safe pick. Third base, Matt Chapman.
Obviously,
there's nothing else to say. It's absurd. Just the style of his defense, how he plays so close up to the cut of grass, and it's just insane.
Yeah,
it's unfair almost because even if he was as good a hitter as he was a fielder, he's gonna make money off his glove. That's how good he is. I got Andrelton Simmons for shortstop. I think he's gonna bounce. He should be a candidate for a comeback player of the year, considering he had multiple leg injuries last year, and he's the best defensive shortstop of this generation by a long shot, and that's saying a lot considering you have Trevor Story, Lindor, and Javi Baez as his his classmates. And Marcus Semien took big strides as well, so he could be a candidate. But Andrelton Simmons is just amazing. It's just different. That's all. That's the only way I can put it. It's just different.
Ozzie Smith 2.0, basically.
Yeah, he's like Ozzie Smith with a bigger, faster, stronger, all of that.
Yeah.
My left field pick is Alex Gordon. I played it safe here. You could have said Michael Brantley maybe, or your pick Benintendi.
Yeah,
those are pretty much the other two left fielders I can see going for it. Center field, I went kind of biased here again. I went really biased here. I picked Oscar Mercado.
I saw just as soon as you said, "Yo, you know what?" I kind of went biased. I'm like, he's gonna pick Mercado.
Yeah. For you guys who know who Oscar Mercado is, he's a second-year player for the Cleveland Indians, center fielder. He's a plus speed, and he's only played center field for a couple years. He used to be a shortstop, but he came from the Cardinal system, which should tell you how good of a player he was. They put him. He was originally a shortstop, drafted in the second round as a glove first guy, but he had trouble with his arm slot and things like that. So they put him in center field, and he kind of got better. And he's new, and you can see it. He's so fast that he can make up for bad jumps and bad routes and bad reads on the ball. Just because you don't see guys who are that athletic playing baseball. Like he has, if he ran a 4-year dash, he'll probably be among he has cornerback speed. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah. He has cornerback speed and quickness too.
Yeah, I expect him to make a big leap defensively, and honestly, he should be a Gold Glove candidate. But when you have guys like Ramon Laureano and things like that playing center field, it makes it a bit tough. My pick for right field is Aaron Judge. I feel like he's kind of overdue for a Gold Glove.
Yeah,
because he has the ability and the range and the arm, but he just can't stay healthy.
It's always really surprised me because I remember the first time I watched Judge play when I first started watching baseball. I was like, this dude is like fucking 6'8", and he plays right. I'm like, and there's no way he's good. He's a good defensive outfielder at that size. There's no way, and he's fucking amazing. Like that,
Yeah,
that surprised
he
me
can
so
move.
much.
He can really move, and well, Stan is a good fielder too. Actually,
Yeah, he's
I
pretty
don't think
decent.
people really realize that, giving their flowers, but he's a competent defensive player also.
That's the only problem really for Judge staying healthy. So if he stays healthy, you combine his abilities with the fact that he plays for the Yankees and he's one of the most popular players in baseball. That's a Gold Glove. That sounds like a recipe for a Gold Glove if I've ever seen one. So, so yeah, I'm not gonna shit on Jeter anymore. So, yeah, that was the whole kind of predictions. Do keep in mind, I think I've said it before, but do keep in mind that the postseason predictions, all that. This is just kind of a toss up. It's just how we feel. Who the fuck knows? Like maybe the fucking Diamondbacks start the season 15-5 and they win the National League West. Who the fuck knows? But that kind of leads us into the quote unquote main topic, of the episode. And this season really is a rarity because of the 60 games, but the normal season of 162 games is one of the keys that we wanted to explain as to why is baseball so great, right? Like, what is it about baseball that makes it a sport that we like so much? What is it about baseball that makes it a sport that is so easy to be passionate about? What is it about baseball that makes it a sport that is worth your time? So do you want to kick things off here? Because there's a couple points that we can make. If you want to kick things off, then that's cool with me.
Okay, I'll go ahead. For me, why baseball appeals to me, it's a really unique game. When you consider the prospect evaluation, roster construction, and things like that, because I'm very big into the behind the scenes of sports as well as what happens in between the lines, how teams evaluate and draft guys and the process for that, how you construct rosters and build the culture and the common attributes your minor leaguers and your players have. Managing, how do you strategically deploy these guys in a certain way via your lineup, and where do they best fit defensively, and your rotation, and how you develop your pitchers, and who has the qualities to be a good pitcher, and also developing a quality bullpen. Also, baseball, there's just so much personnel management you have to do. It's kind of similar to football in a way where you have your linebacker group and your defensive back group and your defensive line and your QB and your offensive line, and your wide receiver core and your running back and everything. It's similar to that. But for me, you also got to look at the strategy of pinch hitters and your relievers when you call in your relievers and things like that too. And base running. Can you guys steal bases, or can they go from first to third or second to home? It's just really, baseball is and it's so chaotic too. It plays itself out. It's like a clock. The game itself is like a clock. There's no time limit. It plays not yet at least. The game plays itself out.
Hopefully there never is. Hopefully there never is.
Yeah, hopefully there will never ever be a fucking time, a shot clock or whatever the fuck equivalent in baseball, or alchemist seppuku.
Yeah, that was bullshit.
Yeah. Then you gotta look at how the umpire is calling the strike zone for that day. It's just so complex and chaotic and ridiculous, and there's so many things that you keep track of.
There's so many layers to it, right? Like it's just one of the main complaints that I always see, when people talk about baseball and why they can't get into it is, a common theme that I see is, well, for like 90% of the time, like there's nothing going on. Like that's something that people say, and I think that that's something that is fair to say. Like if you're not aware of what's going on, but just as you start to get into the sport, like you start to realize that there's just so much going on in terms of the sequencing of how everything is done, right? Like why a pitcher threw a certain pitch in a certain count. Why did he sequence the pitches in the way that he did? And then you start actually, analyzing everything that's going on, and you realize that there's so much thought, that there's so much, so much complexity going into what seems to be 90% of just standing around, right? But I think for me, more than the complexity of it, I think that the one thing that to me personally appeals to me so much is just the pace of the game, right? When I compare it to something like basketball, for example, basketball and baseball to me are completely opposite sports. Would you agree on that?
Yes.
They're just complete, like, yeah, like everything about them is different. Basketball has a shot clock. In basketball, there's constant movement. Baseball has no shot clock. Well, baseball, at least yet, like we talked about, hopefully never. Baseball has no pitch clock. There's no time limit. Players often do quote unquote standing around, and the pacing is so different. But basketball is so hectic. It's always up and down, up and down, up and down. Baseball is played at this very relaxed, very calm pace that personally it appeals to me so much because it allows you to get into the complexity of everything. It allows you to process things better. But it's just that thing that truly sets it apart from everything else, because when you look at other sports, all the other mainstream sports, they're all timed. They all have some sort of time limit. They're rigidly timed. Football is timed to death. Basketball is the same thing. Hockey is the same thing. I don't know, like it's just the whole vibe of it. It feels in many ways, and we've criticized baseball before, for the culture and everything, but in this sense, to me, in this particular topic, is good that it feels like an old sport. Am I putting it the right way? Because I don't know if I'm like explaining myself correctly here.
You're making sense. Baseball is a sport built for long attention spans, and I feel like
yes,
and I feel like when people our age, kind of just having the computers and everything like that, and there's a lot of people that don't know how to watch baseball, from a pitch by pitch standpoint or from a situational standpoint. When you have your best reliever in the game against the best hitter on the other team, and there's a guy on second, and there's 2 outs, and it's a full count.
Right.
Like, we can appreciate that because we watch the game, but people who don't watch the game, they're really not going to know what's going on and the stakes and how important a situation that is.
Yeah.
Especially when it's just individual against individual most of the game.
Yeah. And that is another thing that also kind of sets baseball apart, because there's most of the mainstream sports are team sports, but baseball is unique in that way that despite the fact that it's the ultimate team sport, because a player can really only control so much, it still boils down to individual battles between the pitcher catcher combo and the hitter, right? Like that's such an interesting dynamic that, like, baseball is way more of a team sport than basketball, really. Like, compared to basketball, James Harden can take as many shots, he can take as many threes as he wants. James Harden could take every single one of his team's shots if he wanted to. Mike Trout can only have 1/9 at most of his team's plate appearances, and he has no control over what his pitchers do. Right?
All right.
Like, there's just...
And that's one great thing about...
Yeah, go ahead.
That's another great thing about baseball. Some random guy playing second base or left field can win the game for you, or go for 5 for 5 with 3 home runs or something like that.
Yeah. It's such a luck-based game.
Like, or some reliever can have like a perfect inning, or some young pitcher you just call it up could throw a perfect game or something like that. Baseball, it's just so unique in the sense that you got these And then you have the base runner versus catcher matchup when you have you got to check and steal bases on base also. It's individual, but it's a very team game at the same time. And then you have the shifts that are going on now. You have these guys that can play multiple positions, and there's no sport like football's like it's like Derwin James being able to play a linebacker, cornerback, and safety. Mm-hmm. That's like Ben Zobrist being able to play all three outfield spots, and you can play third base, second base, and shortstop, and you can still be a competent hitter. And then with baseball, you have the stats and how things are quantified also over a 162 game span. It gives you this interesting picture of how an individual player played and how he became successful, just because there's so much information for you to analyze and kind of put together how he did what he did, besides just looking at the eye test and your basic stats.
Yeah.
Baseball is the first sport to have analytics too. And you see the trend now linking other sports with analytics and advanced metrics and things like that.
Yes. And the thing about baseball is because it's a sport that can be summed up in really a succession of individual events, it's very easy to accurately measure things with those analytics. And in many ways, that's a great example of what baseball really is, because it's such a complex game where little adjustments, very little minor things that might even escape, the eye of an average person who's a non-fan can really completely change, for example, a player's career. For example, Jose Bautista, he was a nobody who played for a million different teams before 2010. In 2010, he had more than 50 home runs. The change he made was he added a leg kick to his swing. It helped him with his timing, and it helped him with his bat speed, and just a small mechanical twist turned him, from a nobody who played for a bunch of different teams and who looked like he was going to be out of baseball to a megastar. So, and it's just, that's just one great example of the spirit of everything. And then really when you look at it, like the difficulty of the sport, like the discipline it takes to do the things, mechanically correctly over and over and over and over and over again. Like, I feel like we're kind of slightly all over the place, but we're kind of giving you these pointers, right? To why, like, all these things that set the game apart at its core from all the other sports you're watching. And you mentioned a very important point. Baseball is a game that's designed, as a sport, at its core, is designed for people with a longer attention span. And I think that's one of the things that is causing some of the decline in baseball and its popularity, because baseball is trying to turn the already grown people who have short attention spans into baseball fans when they're never going to be that. So I think they need to, realize, they kind of need to realize who they need to market baseball to, right?
I agree. And one thing we're really going to emphasize a lot on this podcast is social media presence and them amplifying the stars and the guys with big personalities, and having more. Even in the minor leagues, you can do a lot more with showing people how these guys reach this point and how much work they put in. That's one big thing about baseball too. Is baseball is the only sport when you have a minor league system.
Yeah.
In the world, I think it's just. I mean, soccer, I know they have, and hockey they have theirs, but it's not like baseball is, where you have multiple levels and things like that, where you have this really unique infrastructure that allows you to prepare your young guys. And people, I don't think people really appreciate how difficult it is to play baseball.
Yeah, like, let's just put it like this. Those players who might get called up to the majors once here in a while. They might play a couple games, but they never truly make the major leagues. They always stay between AAA and the major leagues, the quad A players, those guys, if those guys are amazing baseball players, but they can't crack the major leagues at all. And also, baseball is like, I don't think we need to get into the numbers of like the reaction time, because that's kind of corny, and like we don't need to make that point because we're already talking about it. But as an example of the difficulty, think about this. Baseball is the only sport of the mainstream sports that I'm aware of that when you draft a player, even if it's a first round player, he's not going to play for you in the next 2 years. The only one.
Yeah, it's if you have a guy who makes it to the majors in less than 2 years, and usually either a reliever or a pitcher, or a guy who's a bench college bat. Like, even now with the service time game teams are using out in order to prolong their guys' careers, and them prolonging having a guy on their team. You're not going to see your best players in the majors for a long time unless you're just that good, like Albert Pujols level, Alex Rodriguez level good, where they're just too good to play in the minor leagues, and then they're not going to face any hardship. That's one big thing about baseball too. Is baseball is a game based on failure. Your best players, your best position players, are still gonna be unsuccessful 60% of the time.
Yep. They're not going to get on base over half the time.
Yeah, less than half the time. The only guy who's getting on base, even Barry Bonds was even getting on base half the time, I think.
Not throughout his career.
And he's the best player ever. He might have done it once or twice, but if Barry Bonds can't do it, you probably can't do it either. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Another example is, have you ever noticed, like, and this is for the people listening, right? So if you're someone who maybe is not a big fan, right, and he hasn't watched, like, you haven't watched a whole lot of baseball games and all that, pay attention when the pitcher's about to throw the ball. Pay attention to where the catcher is positioning his glove, right? That's where the intended location is. And pay attention to how often pitchers completely miss that spot. These are the best pitchers in the world, the best people in the world at throwing a baseball, and they still miss way over half the time.
Yeah, well, pitchers still is insane. The conditioning and the requirements kind of need to be a professional pitcher,
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, you got guys that need to throw a ball 90 miles per hour, and they got to be able to they need to know how to throw other types of pitches as well, and they got to have the balance, athleticism, and the eyesight, and to repeat the mechanics and stay balanced on the rubber and follow through and not hurt themselves while trying to throw a ball 90 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And throw other types of pitches in the high 80s and things like that. And if you want to really get into how hard it is to play baseball, imagine being a catcher.
The hardest position in the diamond by far.
Hardest position, yeah. You have to manage your pitching staff, so you have to know what pitches they throw, how they throw them. And then you also have to know the hitters and what their tendencies are and read their swings and things like that. You have to block pitches in the dirt. You're squatting for 3 hours a day in the sun or in the cold. Things like that also. And then you have to also hit. It's absurd with baseball. Even the guys in the minor leagues are among the best players in the world, and they probably won't even make to the major leagues.
Yeah. There's a reason why baseball players have the longest development curve, the longest development curves of any professional athletes in terms of mainstream sports. There are no 18-year-olds. There are no 18-year-olds in the major leagues. Seeing a 19-year-old in the major leagues is extremely rare. And this all contributes to really what we're saying. Baseball is a game that is about dealing with failure, constant failure. It requires you to be almost robotic-like in terms of being able to consistently use your mechanics that you've worked on so much and repeat them over and over again. And really, I mean, at its core, it's a game that's about grinding. It's a game that it's a marathon, really. And we've discussed this before when we talked about, why baseball needs 162 games. Because, yeah, like the whole essence of the sport is about this slow, methodical, continuous grind and, dealing with failure. So it's just like no other sport has a vibe quite like it. I really don't know how else to put it. Like that's the one thing. And the one thing about baseball is you either like it or you don't. Am I right in saying that? Because I think that just based on how the sport is, you're either gonna like it or you're not going to like it. It's either gonna appeal to you or it's not gonna appeal to you whatsoever, and you're gonna think it's boring. So,
I agree. Yeah, you're right. And that's one thing with baseball. It's very polarizing, the sport. And I understand why it can be intimidating and seem hard to get into. So trying to press the issue and get people to like it is kind of corny in itself because there's so much going on, but it's at such a different rate and pace that people just aren't going to be able to look and appreciate that. And honestly, who has time to sit down and watch 3 hours or something slow pace? And it's just the kind of sport kind of makes sense when you look at the trend, not only in sports, but in entertainment in general. When you move away from slow burn, slow paced things, and we're getting all this sensory overload because people have the attention spans of a squirrel on meth. So we get it, but baseball is a great sport. It has something, and it has appeal. And it has the ability to be popular again, but does the MLB want to be popular again?
Now that's a
Probably
question.
not.
That's a question that really does need its own answers. And considering the routes they're taking baseball to, through, I'm not sure if they actually like baseball. They like they like the money they're making for baseball, but I mean, I don't know how to feel about whether they like baseball or not. So basically, to wrap it up, so we don't go like fucking 2 hours, just to kind of do like a quick summary of it, right? So baseball at its core is a sport that it's played at a completely different pace. The essence is completely different. There is no time limit. There is no pitch clock. There is no nothing that is strictly timed. Everything is about simply getting 27 outs. And that's part of the beauty of it. You can have 2-hour games, you can have 4-hour games, right? Also, one thing we haven't mentioned is the fact that every ballpark is different, which I think is one of the most charming things about baseball to me.
Yeah. There's so many different types of players in the MLB, and then there's unique guys that come around every so often and revolutionize the game, things like that also. And then one great thing to look at baseball is prospect development also, and how teams do roster construction. I know I said this already, but I want to reiterate because it's really great how scouting and how these prospects are kind of built up and how they learn the game, things like that. It's exciting. Watching baseball players grow and get better, especially guys on your team, is amazing. Watching them put it together is just crazy.
Yeah, you've reached that point where you're full-blown baseball nerd when you start actually when you start actually looking up how your minor league system is doing. So because it is very rewarding. So yeah,
you're initiated when you like it's a League of Shadows when you start
100%
looking at your prospects and rookie ball in the Dominican League that are like 12 years old.
Yeah, because these kids were signing at 16. So I think we were kind of a bit all over the place with that explanation, but I think it kind of like makes sense. It's just we covered the essence of it, really. Like we explained to you like baseball has its own appeal. It has a completely different lane from every other sport, and really, you're either gonna like it or you're not gonna like it. Now, our job, well, not our job, but our aim, if you if you want to call it that, is to make baseball more accessible to the average person. Because it does have a cultural issue and does have an image problem and does have a lot of issues, but we believe that it's a sport that has its own appeal and can appeal to a lot of different people. Also, because it creates this sense of community, and it has a more peaceful vibe than, say, football, which is a extremely violent, war-like sport, and people like to relax from time to time. So, I don't want to stay here over like 15 minutes because we kind of went over it. So, you got anything else?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so that was episode 11 of the Pinch Talk podcast. Now, just as a warning, if there's some parts of the podcast that seem like they don't kind of like sync perfect, well, not like they don't sync perfectly, but the transitions between some parts are not as like smooth, like as smooth as you might want, is because we had quite a few technical problems recording this episode, and we actually might just do a fucking like blooper reel and put it out on Twitter. So because there was a lot of funny shit.
Yeah. It was my fault mostly. I had interruptions from family and things like that, and also my internet decided to act stupid. And honestly, this is kind of embarrassing because there's gonna be points of the podcast where we both sound stupid, or we're falling asleep or something like that. But we apologize. This usually doesn't happen. We take pride in putting out quality stuff, and Mario's audio engineer, so it's really fortunate to have him kind of clean things up and tighten it, kind of get it together. So yeah, thank you guys. If you made it this far for listening, we appreciate you. This is also kind of a fun podcast to do because we got to kind of just rant about pure baseball stuff. We didn't have to discuss any news or anything like that. And we got to watch live baseball, and that made us really happy.
That was so beautiful. So beautiful.
It was beautiful. And even though the players looked sloppy and things like that, it was really great to see.
Yeah. And this is probably, just as a warning, this is probably going to be the very last podcast that has a more relaxed feel to it because, well, the next the next podcast we do is going to be with the season already starting, and I'm probably going to be pissed already. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to be in a very good mood. Well, I don't want to be on some bullshit, but there is a chance that I'm going to be annoyed at some points next week. So just letting y'all know. So we're going to start talking about winners and losers and shit like that. We actually, you think it would be cool if we did like bring some guests on to talk maybe about their teams and shit?
Oh, absolutely, that would be dope. We got to get Mark on the podcast still.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying because I think it would make sense to bring him on. For next
I could
week.
see if some other guys from like the baseball side of baseball Twitter would like to be on the podcast, and I think it would be kind of cool to get some maybe some minor league coaches or minor league players that aren't playing right now to guest star maybe. Yeah. Down the line. Yeah. Because I kind of have an inside source for that also.
Yep. See, Pat is the minor league correspondent here. Like he has the product, people.
Gotta make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird how kind of everything kind of jumped off as soon as you started the podcast from that perspective, It's really interesting. And also, one thing we have in our line is Mario is Spanish, like Spanish from Spain, Spanish. Yeah. And he speaks Spanish. So doing interviews with Hispanic players down the line is important to us also. And for those who don't know, Hispanic means those who speak Spanish. So, giving those guys exposure and keeping the visibility on the guys who speak Spanish and are from Hispanic countries is important to us, because they kind of get a little bit of erasure and things like that. So, we look forward to that also.
Yeah. So, if we don't got anything more, and on my side we don't, because I don't want this episode to be 100 minutes long. Yeah, that was episode 11 of the Pinch Talk podcast. Don't forget to follow the podcast, well, the show. Don't forget, because the podcast is part of the show. So don't forget to follow the show on all the social media platforms. On Twitter especially, we do the Baseball Terms 101 threads. And that will help you if you're a newer baseball fan. So follow us there. Remember that the podcast is available on all the big platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, you name it is there. And yeah, from my end, all the way here from Spain, thank you for listening. And if you got anything else to say to these people, then we can sign off.
No, that's it. That's Pat from Cleveland. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you.
He from Ohio.
I hope you guys have a good one. Stay safe. Yeah, from Ohio.
Peace, people.